Hello everyone! In this video, we'll go over the Wordly Wise Book 4, Lesson 5 words. You can follow along at home using your book. Let's get started! Our first word is abrupt. Abrupt is an adjective and it means happening suddenly without warning. So when something happens in an abrupt way, it means suddenly and quickly and sometimes a little bit surprising. We often use this word when something suddenly changes, stops, or begins moving in a way that was unexpected. So sometimes it can feel a little bit shocking or unexpected. The example sentence says, when the bus made an abrupt stop, several people were thrown off balance. So you can imagine if a bus were to suddenly stop or come to an abrupt stop, the people on that bus might start falling all over the place because of that sudden stop, just like in this video here. You can see the car was going very fast and then it came to an abrupt or a very sudden stop. So I could also say something like, the woman was thrown off of the horse when it came to an abrupt stop. So we often use this word abrupt together with made an or came to. I could also use this word to talk about weather suddenly changing. So I could say there was an abrupt change in the weather. Maybe it was very hot one day and then the next day there might have been a sudden snowstorm. That would be an abrupt change. Or even on the same day, sometimes it might be raining a lot and then the next second the rain suddenly stops and the sun comes out as if it wasn't raining at all. We can call that an abrupt change. The next word is achieve. Achieve can be used as a verb and it means to do what one sets out to do. So when you achieve something, you are able to reach the goal that you were trying to reach. The example says, even though she was blind and deaf, Helen Keller achieved her goal of graduating from college. So here in this picture, you can see Helen Keller after she graduated from college. Her goal, or the thing that she always wanted to do, was to finish her school, finish college. So she was able to achieve or reach that goal. Maybe I could also say something like, he hopes to one day achieve his goal of becoming a pilot. Or something like he was able to achieve his goal of becoming a pilot. We often use this word achieve together with goal when we're talking about being able to do that thing that we wanted to do. And another way that we can use this word is as a noun by changing it to achievement. So now it's not the action of reaching your goal, but that actual goal that was reached. So an achievement is something done that takes skill or effort. For example, landing astronauts on the moon was a great achievement. It was something that required a lot of skill and a lot of effort for people to actually be able to go and land on the moon, so we can call that an achievement. I could also say something like finishing the race was a big achievement. So we often use this word achievement together with maybe great or big before it. The next word is attempt. Attempt can be used as a verb and it means to try, to make an effort. For example, when I attempted to leave class early, the teacher asked me to wait until the period was over. So this sentence might sound a little bit confusing, but imagine a giant university class like this where there are hundreds of students and just one teacher in the classroom. You can imagine if someone were to suddenly get up and try to leave the class, that the teacher would notice and they might say something like, wait until the period was over. Because in university classes, the students can come or go whenever they like most of the time. So that's probably the situation that this sentence is talking about. But we could also use this word to say something like, she will attempt the difficult puzzle. So she will try to do this puzzle. It doesn't mean that she will succeed or that she will be able to do it, but she will at least try. So anytime that you say you are trying something or you will try something, you can use this word attempt instead. And we can also use attempt as a noun to mean a try. And the example says, the athlete cleared the bar in the high jump on her third attempt. So if you see this video here, this is an example of what this sentence is talking about. There is a high bar that the athlete was trying to jump over, and maybe he tried 2 previous times already, so he already attempted it 2 times, but he wasn't able to do it until his third attempt. So here we're talking about the actual numbers or tries that someone took to be able to do something. And going back to the verb, I could also make a sentence like, my mom attempted to fix the broken toy. Here, this propeller fell off of the wooden helicopter and maybe mom is trying to glue it back together, so she is attempting to fix it. The next word is contempt. Contempt is a noun, and contempt is a feeling that someone or something is bad or unworthy. It's a very strong feeling that you do not respect someone. It's a little bit stronger than disliking them. And we often use this word when someone thinks something is wrong or unfair. So you might get this feeling of contempt in that kind of situation. The example says, their classmates felt nothing but contempt for those who refused to help the new student. So you can imagine there is a class and maybe there's a new student in that class. Most of the students are helping that new student, but there are a few who refuse to help the new student. So the other classmates might feel contempt. They might dislike those students who don't want to help the new student, or they might not respect those who are being mean or unhelpful. Another example could be, he looked at the cheater with contempt. Just like in this picture here, there's this boy who's trying to cheat off of the other boy's paper, and you can see the look that he's giving him. It's a very angry and unhappy look. So we can say he looked at him with contempt, with dislike. I could also use this picture here as an example. There are the group of people that are on the boat going very fast, and then they splashed the other group of people on the raft. So maybe these people on the raft were looking at them with contempt, or maybe they felt contempt towards the people on the faster boat. They disliked it because they splashed them with the water. So anytime that you are feeling in an angry kind of way towards someone or some situation, you can use this word contempt to explain that you dislike that person or that situation. The next word is entertain. Entertain can be used as a verb, and there are 3 different ways that we use this word. First, it can mean to interest and amuse. When something keeps you interested or happy, then it entertains you. The example says, my little brother Ramon entertained himself for hours with his new paints. So there was a little boy playing with some paints, just like in this picture here, and he was able to play with those paints for a very long time, feeling happy and not bored at all. So we can say that he was entertained, or he was able to entertain himself. Another thing that might be interesting or entertaining could be a book. So I could make a sentence like, the little girl was entertained by the book all afternoon. She was interested in it for a very long time. The second way we can use this word is to have guests. And the example says, we entertained some old friends on Thanksgiving weekend. So this way of using the word entertain means that there are some people that are coming to your house, and now your family will maybe feed them, have some conversation together. It will keep them entertained, basically. So that's why we use this word entertain to explain that situation when people come to your house and you share a meal together. So you can say, we entertained guests at our house last weekend. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will do some kind of activity like painting or reading a book. Instead, just that everyone's coming together and having a conversation and generally feeling happy. The third way that we can use entertain is to have in mind. So when you are thinking about something or thinking about doing something, then we can say you are entertaining that idea. The example says, Lynn is entertaining the idea of going to soccer camp next summer. So she is thinking about soccer camp in a positive way. She's trying to imagine what it would be like if she did decide to go to soccer camp. So whenever you're thinking about whether you should do something and you're trying to think about it in a positive way, you can use this phrase, entertaining the idea. So you could say something like, I'm entertaining the idea of going to watch a movie. I'm thinking about it and deciding if it's something that I actually want to do. The next word is glimpse. Glimpse can be used as a verb or as a noun. As a verb, it means to get a quick look at something. So you see something very quickly or for a short time. The example says, I glimpsed a black bear near our campground. So just imagine you are camping in a forest and maybe you're walking through a trail and suddenly you look to your left and you glimpse a black bear. You see it very quickly, and if it's a bear, usually you don't want to stay there for a long time and have the bear notice you as well. So you might just keep going back to where it's safe. So that was a glimpse. You saw it for a very short time. Another example could be, I glimpsed a shooting star at night. So maybe you saw the shooting star very quickly as it went across the sky and then disappeared again. Since it didn't last for a long time, then we can use this word glimpse to explain that it was just a short time. We can also use a glimpse to talk about something like road signs. So you could say, I glimpsed the sign as we drove by. When you're driving down a road, there's no chance to stop and carefully examine or look at the signs. Instead, you glimpse them. You see them very quickly. We can also use glimpse as a noun. It is a quick or hasty look. So the meaning is the same, we're just changing how we use it. So instead of a verb, it's now a noun. And the sentence says, I was excited to get a glimpse of the famous author at the restaurant. We'll often see this phrase used together, get a glimpse of something. So maybe I was able to get a glimpse of something, or I was happy to get a glimpse of something. This is how we can use this phrase to make our sentences. You might say something like, I was able to get a glimpse of the answer key for the math test. Or you might ask someone a question, did you get a glimpse of the famous movie star at the cafe? Our next word is mock. Mock can be used as a verb and it means to make fun of. For example, Cinderella's stepsisters mocked her for thinking she could go to the ball. So when you mock someone, you are making fun of them in a mean way. For example, the sentence said that Cinderella's stepsisters here mocked her, so they made fun of her for thinking she could go to the ball. She was all dressed up to go to the ball, but the sisters started making fun of her dress and ripping it apart. So they were very mean and unkind. So anytime that someone is being mean or laughing about what someone is wearing, maybe, or what someone is doing, then we can say that they are mocking that person. Kids should not mock each other because it's not very kind. I could also say it's wrong to mock someone's appearance. We shouldn't make fun of someone just for how they look. But the word mock can also be used as an adjective, and it means not real or pretend. So something that is not real can be described as being a mock. The example says, I pretended to be a lawyer at the mock trial we had at school to learn about the law. So when we use this word mock to mean pretend, it's kind of similar to practicing something. So in this sentence, the students are practicing to be lawyers by having a mock trial. It's not a real trial. There's not really a judge and criminals. They are just pretending. Another example of a mock thing you could have is an interview. Maybe you've had a mock interview with your teacher before, where the teacher asks you some practice questions and you practice answering those questions. So that is a mock interview. In this picture here, the class did a mock election to learn about voting. So they pretended that they were voting for a president maybe, and the whole class submitted their votes just like you would do in a real election. And then they all looked at the results together to learn more about how elections work. Our next word is persist. Persist can be used as a verb to mean to keep on doing or trying. The example says, in spite of many falls on the ice, I persisted and finally was able to skate backwards. So just like in this picture here, there was a person who kept falling on the ice many times, but they did not give up. They kept on trying. So whenever someone is continuing to try and not giving up, we can use this word persist to talk about that action. They persisted to do something. And this word can also mean to go on and on. For example, if this rain persists, we'll have to cut our vacation short. So if you're on vacation but it's just raining every day, so the rain keeps going on and on, it persists, then you might have to cancel your vacation and go home early. Another example of something that can persist is a cough. So I could say his cough persisted for a month. It just kept going on and on without stopping for over a month. We can also use persist as a noun and an adjective. And both the noun and the adjective are more similar to this first definition where someone continues trying and doesn't give up. So as a noun, we change it to persistence, and it means sticking to something, not giving up. For example, Ramon's persistence was rewarded when the teacher let him do his magic tricks for the class. So maybe this boy Ramon did not give up. He kept asking the teacher every day if he could do magic tricks for the class. And eventually, after many tries and not giving up, the teacher allowed him to do his magic tricks. So he persisted. He has a lot of persistence. I could also say this man has a lot of persistence because even though he lost both of his legs, he continued running and didn't give up. So his persistence was rewarded when he won the race. And we can also use this word persist as an adjective, but it changes to persistent. So persistent means refusing to give up. The example says, the persistent teacher would not stop until we understood long division. So there was a teacher who refused to give up even though her students didn't understand the lesson. So when someone refuses to give up, we can use this adjective to describe them as persistent, someone who doesn't give up. Our next word is persuade. Persuade can be used as a verb to mean to win someone over by arguing or asking. The example says, Frank finally persuaded me to read The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. So when you persuade someone, you are trying to change their mind to agree with what you think. So in this sentence here, there was someone named Frank who continued to tell me about this book, or continued to mention that I should read this book or that I would enjoy this book. And when we say arguing here, it doesn't mean fighting, more like trying to explain or prove why you are correct. So Frank finally persuaded me, or persuaded is the same as convincing someone. So he persuaded or convinced me to read this book. I could also say the boy persuaded his parents to get a new dog. So he talked to them and explained his reasons and told them why he thought it was a good idea, and eventually his parents changed their mind and they agreed with him. So when they do that, I can say he persuaded them. He changed their opinion to agree with him. We can also use persuade as an adjective, and it changes to persuasive. So I can say persuasive is having the power to persuade. Someone who is persuasive can do this action of changing someone's mind very well. The example says, Mary was so persuasive that we agreed to help her paint her room. So she was so good at convincing me or changing my mind that we agreed to help her. I could also say, my friend was so persuasive that I allowed him to play with my favorite bear. So he continued talking about how he would take good care of it and he promised to return the bear. So after a while, he convinced me to give him the bear. Then I can describe him as being persuasive. Our next word is phase. Phase is a noun, and a phase is a stage in a series of changes. For example, the full moon is one of the phases of the moon. So when we look up at the sky at the moon, we don't always see the whole full moon like this one. There are many different phases, and each of the phases have a different name. So the full moon, this one here, is only one out of all the different phases. Another example would be reading. There are many different phases to reading. When you first start learning how to read, you might only know the alphabet. And then the next phase might be to learn short 3-letter words like these here. And then the next phase might be to move on to a little bit more difficult sounds and longer words. So every time that there is a different stage or a different part of a series of things, we can call that a phase. You could use this word to say something like, the project is now in its final phase. It's in the final step. Or I can say, each phase of the game gets harder. You can imagine that a game has different levels, so each of those levels would be maybe a different phase of the game. Another example could be the growth of a plant. I can say a plant grows in several phases. There could be the phase where it's just a little tiny sprout, and then another phase when it gets a little bit bigger, and then finally the phase when the flowers start to come out. So that is how we can use this word phase to describe different steps or parts of something. The next word is quaint. Quaint is an adjective, and something quaint is odd or unusual in a pleasing or old-fashioned way. So when something is quaint, it means it's a little bit unusual or not normal, but we think that it's nice or charming or maybe even a little bit beautiful, and usually in a way that is a little bit old-fashioned. So it's not really something modern or large or expensive. It's more small and old-fashioned. The example says, wooden shoes seem quaint to Americans, but not to the people of Holland. So wooden shoes are famously from Holland and they look like this. So when some people see these shoes, they might think of them as being quaint or a little bit old-fashioned, but still very beautiful or pleasing to see. I could use this word to make a sentence like, the small village by the ocean looked quaint. So this village here, you can see it looks a little bit maybe small or old-fashioned, but still very beautiful when you're looking at it from far away. I could also say the shop was filled with quaint decorations. Maybe the decorations looked a little bit old-fashioned, but still very nice. Our next word is recall. Recall is a verb and it means to remember. The example says, do you recall what time we left for the soccer game? So instead of using the word remember, you can use this word recall instead to mean the same thing. And recall can also mean to call or take back. For example, the builder recalled the baby cribs because they were not safe. So whenever there is some product that people make and we later find out that it is not safe for any reason, then there might be a recall on that item. For example, this baby crib, maybe kids or little babies were starting to get stuck here in between the mattress and the wooden parts, so it's not safe for kids to sleep in this crib. So the makers of this crib might have to recall it. They have to let everyone know this is not safe. Please return it back to where you bought it from. Another example here is a toy. They found that this toy was not safe for babies because the babies could bite off the little parts of the toy and they could choke on those parts. So because it is not safe, the makers had to take it back. So they let everyone who bought it know that it's not safe and that they need to return it. And we can do recalls on just about anything. Sometimes if a food item like chicken or even eggs turn out to be not safe because of some kind of germ or bacteria, then that can also be recalled. So again, we can use this word recall just as remember when you remember something. And we can use it to mean taking back something that is unsafe. Our next word is reject. Reject is a verb and it means to refuse to accept or use. For example, the school board rejected the plan for the new gym because the cost was excessive. So a school wanted to build a new gym, but because the cost of the gym was too much, excessive means too much, then the school board or the people who are in charge of making decisions for that school, they rejected. They said that they will refuse to make that gym or refuse the plan for that gym because it was too expensive. So anytime that you are refusing something, you can use this word reject instead of refuse. It's just a synonym of it. So here I can say, the doctor rejected the unhealthy food for lunch. He did not want that unhealthy food. Or maybe you could say something like, the teacher rejected the messy work. the student's work was way too sloppy and messy and the teacher couldn't understand it well, so she rejected it and probably asked the student to do it again in a more neat way. Reject can also be used as a noun, and this time it means something that falls short of what is acceptable. For example, Peter buys clothing rejects and sews them into better style. Another common way that we use this word as a noun is when we talk about fruit or vegetables that are not very good looking, so people usually might not want to buy them. So I could make a sentence like, the store sold fruit rejects at a lower price because they were falling short of what is acceptable. So people think that this kind of vegetable or fruit is not acceptable to be sold. Because it is a reject, then the store sold it for a cheaper or a lower price. So we can use this word reject in these two different ways. Our next word is revise. Revise is a verb and we can use it to mean to go over carefully in order to correct or improve. For example, I don't like to revise my stories, but they get better when I do. So when you are revising something, you are taking a look at what you did one more time to make sure that there are no mistakes. Things like accidentally writing the same word twice or spelling a word incorrectly. So when you are revising your work, you're checking again for those mistakes. Many students don't like to revise their work because it takes a long time and it might be a little bit boring. But when you revise your work, it usually ends up being much better than if you did not do it. So you should always revise your work before turning it in, especially your writing. And revise can also mean to change in order to bring up to date. The example says, our soccer league revised the rules to keep more people from getting hurt. So this way of using the word is usually when we are improving something to make it better, such as rules, that way people stop getting hurt, or even products like a phone. So every year, for example, or almost every year, phones might come out with a revised version or a new updated version. Another way you can use this word is to say something like, we revised the recipe to make the cookies taste better. Or she revised her drawing to add more detail to it. So you are improving something, making it better, or making a new version of it that is better or safer than the previous one. Our last word is sensitive. Sensitive is an adjective, and sensitive means quick to notice or feel. For example, my mom is very sensitive to my feelings. So someone who is sensitive quickly notices or feels when someone feels a certain way. If you are feeling very sad or not good on a certain day and you have a sensitive mom, then she might notice right away, or she might feel that something is wrong. So that kind of person can be described as being sensitive. It can also mean easily affected by even slight change. So even little things can affect or bother you. For example, I could say, she is sensitive to loud noises. So even actually a little bit of noise might bother her and she might not be able to sleep because she is sensitive to noise. But some other people might still be able to sleep even when it's really loud or when there's a lot of noise. The example here says, I wear sunglasses because my eyes are sensitive to light. So there are some people whose eyes become very sensitive. It might actually hurt when there's too much sunlight, so they need to wear sunglasses in the sunlight. we can describe their eyes as being sensitive. They are easily affected even by a little bit of light. And someone who is sensitive is also someone who might cry easily. So they might become upset very quickly, even by minor things. So that kind of person can also be described as being sensitive. For example, someone who is sensitive might get upset by jokes instead of laughing at them. Or they might feel sad and upset when going to new locations that they've never been to before because it is a slight change. People who are sensitive usually don't do well with changes. And that's all for this video. We went over the Wordly Wise Book 4 Lesson 5 words. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye!